Imagine you pick up a Dial magazine in 1922, open it up, and what you read is, April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire. Already you know you're in a strange territory, since April and spring is always a subject for poets that's full of celebration and rebirth, all the way back to Chaucer, One not April, and his sure suita, the drunt of March hath pierced to the ruta, and bathed every vein in sweet liquor, and that sweet liquor is the rain of rebirth, and of fecundity, and of new hope. April is the cruelest month. Compare it with a work by my favorite poet, Gerard Manley Hopkins, when he writes, nothing is so beautiful as spring, when weeds and wheels shoot long and lovely and lush. Thrushes' eggs look little low heavens, and thrush through the echoing timber does so rinse and ring the ear. It strikes like lightning to hear him say. That's a long way from April is the cruelest month, reading lilacs out of the dead land. But you're reading a journal in 1922. A terrible savagery of the war is still in everyone's mind, and even for people who escaped all injury or didn't participate directly, it was a war that largely unmade the hopes of a whole era, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dry tubers. And in the winter kept us warm. There's a huge clue as to what's going on, because people don't want to remember the world in 1922. They don't want to remember the trauma that they've just been through. They don't want surging spring in all its fecundity and beauty. They want a kind of retreat and a place of forgetting. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth in forgetful snow, feeding a little life with dry tubers. Summer surprised us, coming over the Stongbarksay with a shower of rain. We stopped in the colonnade and went on in sunlight into the Hofgarten and drank coffee and talked for an hour. Bingar kann du sin Stammas Lied down at Deutsch. And excuse my German, but what he says is so relevant. He's gone into a coffee house and someone is saying, Bingar kann du sin Stammas Lied down at Deutsch. I am not a Russian. Stammas Lied down. I am a Lithuanian. Act Deutsch, a true German. Now, right now it might not make sense, but in a time of refugees and displacement and reshifting of national borderlands and wholesale migrations of refugees, a line like that makes a lot of sense. Besides, even if you're not a refugee in 1922, there's a state of mind where you've been dispossessed of the world that you knew, of the national nesting, of the identity. Things are more cosmopolitan and chaotic and rooted not in place, but rooted in a sort of frenetic mobility, grasping for some new meaning in a world bereft of a center. Bingar kann du sin Stammas Lied down at Deutsch. And when we were children, staying at the Archduke's, my cousin's, he took me out on a sled, and I was frightened. He said, Marie, Marie, hold on tight. And down we went. In the mountains, there you feel free. I read much of the night and go south in the winter. And this memory of an earlier time in twisted up gender is typical of modernism, where the present is thought to be a kind of pastiche of past events all flowing into a simultaneous time, though. Marie, Marie, hold on tight, and down we went. In the mountains, there you feel free. I read much of the night and go south in the winter. What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow from this stony rubbish? Son of man, you cannot say you are guess, for you know only a heap of broken images where the sun beats and the dead tree gives no shelter, the cricket no relief. Now, anytime you're talking about a heap of broken images, and especially in the Dial magazine in 1922, the mind goes back to other statements of modernist angst. 2 years before, in the Dial, William Butler Yeats had published his Second Coming, and you have images of things fall apart, the center cannot hold, mere anarchy is loosed upon the world, the blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. That sense of no center is something that haunted every single modernist writer, and that sense of fragmentation, things fall apart. Ezra Pound had spoken of a consciousness disjunct, being but an over-blotted series of intermittences. A sense of continuity and connection between events is radically gone. So when T.S. Eliot speaks in The Wasteland of a heap of broken image, if you are in the world of modernist angst where nothing connects with nothing, stop there. Fabulous poem. I will go over it another time, but now I want to show you what the context of the poem in the pages of the Dial can do for our understanding, experience, and perhaps even for our love of the poem. The frontispiece of the November 1922 Wasteland issue of the Dial featured a photograph by Constantine Brancusi of his own sculpture, The Golden Bird, which abstracted the form of birds down to a minimal and highly evocative form, one which nevertheless conveys a sense of flight. It's as if some archetypal image of flight came tumbling out of our unconscious or out of our dreams. And here's another 1920 piece of art, this time by the French painter Robert Delaunay. He has painted the cathedral at Saint-Severin, but with a cubistically twisted inner space, stunningly beautiful, but transforming the sacred architecture into something quite modern, with the mind of the viewer and the cathedral spilling together in a dreamy and spatially distorted, quite surreal world. In a way, both works mirror the surreal and modernist wonders of the wasteland, the hunger for spiritual homecoming and colloquy, at the same time as the works map a world of dispossession. Relevant, too, is the concern of all three works, with archetypal forms spilling into an urgent and frenetic modernity. Okay, much more to say, and I will return to this subject in future videos, but it's a fascinating exercise to explore the original publication in periodical form of a favorite work of writing, and the time capsule effect of the original context often enriches our sense of that work. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you liked this.